You're listening to the Big Data Beard. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Big Data Beard podcast live from Splunk's .conf 23 in Las Vegas at the beautiful Venetian. Brett, I have to ask, you've just come back from your honeymoon in Italy. Is the Venetian an accurate representation of Venice?
It's close. Very close.
That's
the part I was at.
Well, speaking of trips around the world, I'm excited to have John Owen join us. And John, we've met before.
We have.
Where was it that we met? Tell the folks.
I believe 2019 on an RV outside of a Buc-ee's in Texas.
What a great place to meet somebody. Well, and John, you were cool enough. If for those of you who don't remember, we took an RV, outfitted it with a bunch of IoT gear. Boy, I wish we had one of these edge hubs at that point. But we were splunking an RV, crossing the country, entertaining folks with some podcasts and YouTube shows with interesting technologists. RBH was there having a good time with us. And John brought his family out to see this crazy RV that we ended up driving onto the floor of the Venetian, which was just bananas. It was kind of a surreal experience.
Yeah, I tried to forget a lot about living in an RV with you guys for 2 weeks, but I do remember the roast beef or the beef brisket sandwiches.
Sandwiches at Buc-ee's.
You guys went
It was a good day.
We're doing it again.
I think we probably should.
We're doing it.
Yeah, maybe in separate cars this time.
An airplane.
Speaking of good days, we have one of the things we talked about on a couple of shows so far is our excitement around the Splunk Edge Hub, this new device. And John, before we get into some of the things you guys are doing with it, you actually brought one. I'm so excited. You actually brought the physical device to us. Would you mind telling the folks, show them what it is and talk a little bit about, what the capabilities are? That'd be super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the Splunk Edge Hub device. It connects to native network and native IoT technologies and protocols. It has onboard edge AI sensors as well to detect anomalies for any type of sensors that you're throwing through it. They're really, really awesome devices and very, very complex for, as new to the market as they are.
Yeah. What's interesting about the Edge Hub is it's clearly a hardware device, which may feel, strange for a company that's a software company like Splunk. But really what it is, it's a device that's, its express goal, as you said, was to get data, from places that we're not already getting data from typically in Splunk. And it's being taken to market, as we've been told, with partners like Fulcrum. So tell the folks a little bit about what Fulcrum is and who they are and what you guys, we'll call it your superpowers are.
Yeah, so Fulcrum is based in Houston. We're a value-added reseller, consultancy company, helping any and all verticals, specializing in energy, medical, and other utility services. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit around you work a lot in Bitcoin. Yes, well, we have some very nice partners that do really amazing, massive things with Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. Okay, and is that still a thing? Because my Coinbase wallet, it says it's not, or I'm an awful investor. It's really shifted from personal mining with individual rigs you might have out your mining and turning that into actual Bitcoin and funds essentially. Wow.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your use case surrounding Bitcoin mining.
Sure. So we're taking the value of not only the Splunk Edge Hub, but the power of Splunk itself to correlate the data that we're, seeing from visibility and IoT segments of network, and marrying that up with the intelligence that we get not only from, business operations, but financial operations and environmental sensors to really operationalize and add efficiency to places that, is typically homegrown or self-developed things that there's no enterprise massive support a lot for enterprise side Bitcoin mines.
So what's the biggest challenge when you go work with a Bitcoin mining organization? What's the challenge in getting them to adopt something like this? And what are they thinking in terms of the implications on whether it's security or it's the operations side? What are those things that you're having to kind of convince people of as why this is an interesting use case?
That's a great question. So generally, the support for this has been, legacy SCADA systems and IoT things that, take a lot of money, that's cost prohibitive. Moving in something like this is just a new world because they've typically separated not only operations, but personnel, funding, and even the sensors and decisions between those. And so having something that's able to collect and then transmit that data onto a localized and centralized platform, and then marrying that with a standard business intelligence and IT data really gives them the value they need to make the decisions, hopefully early.
Yeah.
So for these mining operations, though, what does resilience look like for them?
Well, generally uptime, right? So they're their bread and butter is generating Bitcoin. If they're not doing that, they're losing money. The relationship that they typically have with power companies is very, very close because of, this is the reason why people can't really mine in their homes anymore. And so, being able to use these things to leverage those decisions, super, super valuable.
Yeah, they seem to be pretty asset intensive. I'm assuming these things are rather large. Like, how big are these environments?
Power-wise, you're talking scales of comparable cities. In terms of single sites, yes. We're talking, sizes of large cities in Texas, even for, if you have 100,000 units or 200,000 units, these are large-scale enterprise because that's how you make it. You get fractions of a Bitcoin per completion, and so you need to scale that up to really get a benefit out of it.
So when you say size of a city, you mean in power consumption?
In power consumption, yes.
Are we talking like Dallas, Austin size?
We're talking large metroplexes, yes. It is an absolute, insane is the right word for it, nearly unfathomable.
Yeah. And are you guys working at all on like optimization of power as well, or?
A little bit. There are like industry-built facilities based around power efficiencies. Ours is to really give the insight that they need to be able to maintain how the fleet operates across the power grid, and then marrying that up with the other power consumption, which is cooling. They have to be able to maintain these rigs over time in honestly less than desirable situations, environmentally wise. And so being able to get a localized view across the pods or the mining site, so to speak, really gives them the view to say, hey, like, here's where our issue is. We need to drill down there, and hopefully there's nothing down that would prevent them from being profitable.
So one of the things that you talk about in asset-intensive industries, your measurement is for success on resilience is uptime. But I'm curious if you're hearing any of the conversations in industries that are using energy at that level. What sort of sustainability conversations are they having? Is that a concern?
Obviously, like the physical security and physical aspect of things are because the facility is so directly tied from financial aspect to the power grid. And so being able to maintain that relationship, obviously it goes not only to the miners itself, but to cooling facilities, is the essence of resilience for them.
Yeah. So, as Kyle sort of said in joking, I feel like we're past the hype cycle of Bitcoin and, blockchain technologies. They're now trying to figure out some of the use cases that are interesting. Clearly, people are spending inordinate amounts of money on energy to create these funds. What does that industry look like now that NFTs are not, as in vogue and our Bitcoin wallets have shrunk from a personal mining perspective? What's next in that industry that you see?
They're moving essentially Wall Street equivalent, right? It's these large, almost they're the financial institutions at the end of the day, right? Whether they're working in computer funded or just whatever IT solutions support that, at the end of the day, they're financially motivated. And so being able to essentially create currency is through hashing is their bread and butter. It keeps them alive.
Yeah.
It's almost like essentially like a virtual land grab, so to speak, of a literal currency, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Well, not like metaverse land grab.
Right.
That's another technology for another day.
Yeah.
So, when the folks are like, what's the best place for folks to learn more about what you guys are doing with the Edge Hub and kind of what the team at Fulcrum's up to?
Yeah, so definitely come check out our booth here in the Partner Pavilion as well as our website, ftsc.com. I'm happy to take any and all questions.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for bringing the actual Edge Hub for folks to see. I think it's actually a very nice looking device. And I do hear, Brett, for you can actually, I think you can change the color of the LED. So I know that's important.
Done.
RGB built in.
There we go.
That's right. We can make it color match, maybe even make it dance to the music. We'll find out later. Thanks, everybody, for listening to another Big Data Beard podcast. And thank you so much again, John, for joining us to talk more about Edge Hub and the team at Fulcrum. Make sure if you're enjoying these shows or if you have feedback, put some comments in the feedback below. And be sure to follow Big Data Beard on all the social handles. I'm Corey Minton. Thanks for listening to the Big Data Beard Talk podcast.